Hello everybody and welcome back to another Kimball's Corner. So today I'm going to be using Jane Davenport products. And just like before in the last video, I started off with a thumbnail, and using a thumbnail really helps me see like the proportions better because it's on a smaller scale. And then I blew it up in Procreate and traced over my work, and then I printed it out. And once again, I'm going to be using the Provision Blue carbon paper to transfer the drawing into my brand new Jane Davenport journal. I only have 2 of these left. Ugh, I'm trying to hold on to them for as long as I can. And I'm keeping the first page bare because I think I'm going to do like a welcome to my sketchbook page. We'll see though. Yeah, I have no idea. So yeah, just throwing down the carbon paper, and then I'm going to put the drawing on top. And then I just taped it down to help hold it in place, and instead of taping all the corners, I use the little clips because I learned from my last one that it's a little easier to keep things in place. And also with the clips, I can remove it easily to make sure the transfer is nice, and voila, the transfer was nice. And these are some of the products I'm going to be using. I don't end up using that golden pen. It was just going to be for her necklace, but I kind of felt that there was too much going on, so you'll see what I do at the end. I mean, you've already seen the thumbnail, but you know, whatever. All the pretty colors of the magic wands. And then also the Gessos, which I use like acrylic paint, but technically they are Gessos, but I love them. They dry very quickly and they have like a really velvety, smooth finish. So the colored pencils lay down on them really, really nicely. You can also lay down watercolor and inks and other things on top of them. Cleaning up my little display of mess. And then I'm checking my thumbnail to make sure I get the colors in order. And getting my favorite paintbrush. It was like a little paintbrush that came with like a set of paints from Jane Davenport like 5 years ago. Still going strong. And because I'm doing the background with just solid colors, I'm not bothering using a palette right now. I'm just gonna squeeze it out onto the page. And at first I'm like, oh, I don't need to be so careful of the line work. And then I just kind of remembered way later on that I'm gonna be using ink for her hair, and just trying to cover up some of the colors. It was not the easiest, but you know, I should have been a little more careful from the start. Also, if you're going to paint with precision, I do not recommend 2 to 3 cups of caffeine before you start your actual painting. Because if you watch my other videos, you know that like I'm pretty messy when it comes to artwork. I like to scribble and all that kind of stuff. Oh, with this pink color, the cap wasn't closed tight. Like it didn't, I didn't snap the lid shut, so it got really thick. I mean, it was a little thick beforehand, but now it's like really thick. So yeah, it was a bit of a struggle, but it's fine. It's worth it because it's a gorgeous color. It's one of my favorites. Also, if you know me, you watch my videos, you know that I love working with pink, yellow, and blue. Well, more like a teal, a hot pink, and a bright yellow. But yeah, I'm just speeding through because I am just laying down flat colors. There's no shading. There's nothing technique-wise going on here. So we just zipped through that real quick. And I don't show it, but like later on, I do multiple layers and get some better coverage and try to clean up the lines as best I can. But I figured that was kind of boring to watch, so, you know, skipped over it. Once again, just starting with the blue, right on the page, because no blending involved. Also, I turn the book a lot. Actually, I know I'm not the only one that does this, but make your life easier. Turn the artwork if you can. I'm not so skilled with the paintbrush that I can twist and turn my wrist, but I try. And also working with that blue next to that pink was making my eyes wig out, but I was loving it. I did a second layer of the blue just because the white was showing through quite a bit on that one. And now I'm adding some water to the hair, only to help the ink flow a little bit better so I don't have to use so much of it. I literally use like 3 drops of ink. And a very wet brush to start it off to just dilute it the tiniest bit. And then we go in, and of course, I'm like trying to cover up that yellow. And yellow and purple are complementary, so it kind of turns into like a skin tone. but it's fine. I think I try and remedy it a little bit later with colored pencils. So when I do gradations, I usually start with the darkest spot, like with the most pigment, and then I just keep washing my brush out and pull the color out further and further to just fade the color. And then when it's still wet, I can go back in and add more saturation of the color and just blend it out a little bit easier. And I'm not worried right now about shading or details, highlights, any of that. I'm just working on getting the gradation. So once I have the purple faded out, I'm going to bring in the mid-tone color, or the middle color. It's not really well, it is a mid-tone. I don't know what I'm talking about. The darker pink color. And I'm going to put the most saturation right in the center. And then I'm going to work on blending it outwards towards the purple and towards just like the white of her hair. And I am avoiding her bangs right now because I'm going to do those a little bit different later. So yeah, I'm just wetting the page and working the ink both directions. It's a little easier to the purple because it's wet and it blends in really nicely. And then I try to like fade it out to the ends of her hair. It doesn't have to be perfect because I know I'm bringing in another color. But yeah, it's making a nice neon orange where that yellow is, especially when I bring in the neon pink. So just a couple drops of that. Now, this is very neon. The camera doesn't really show it, but it is very neon. It's very bright. But also, I did use a little bit of water, which really tones down the effect, but it's okay. It's still a bright pink, which I love. And going over that yellow just makes a nice, vibrant orange. Orange is my favorite color, so I'm not mad about it. It just looks like a little bit of glow to her hair. But yeah, I did the same thing here where I started with the strongest pigment at the tips of her hair, and then I just blend it back into that purpley mid-pink purple color. And since I already had pink on my brush, I was like, you know what? Let's just do pink in her hair. So I'm just doing reverse now of what I did before. So now I'm starting with the pink coming off of like the roots of her hair, and then I'm gonna blend it out to like the darker purple at the tips. That is such a pretty color. And I kind of start doing some shading, but not really just yet. Letting the inks dry makes it a lot easier to layer up the colors, especially since they're acrylic inks, so they won't shift. They might shift like the tiniest bit if they aren't fully dry. If the paper's damp underneath, you could pick up the color, but it's okay. And so now I'm coming back in. I've dried it fairly well, and I'm coming back in with another run of the purple. And I'll start adding like little streaks here and there. I don't really have like a full lighting situation. I kind of just make it all up as I go, whatever looks aesthetically pleasing. And then here, doing shading in hair is fairly easy, and if you do it my style, I mean, it's not like very realistic or anything, but it gives a nice texture and a nice look. But yeah, I just kind of stroke upwards into where the highlight's going to be, and then I stroke down where the highlight's going to be. So the strokes never actually meet, and that kind of makes the highlight in between. And then here, like the hair is kind of wavy and highlights could be everywhere. So mostly I'm just following the line work that I have down on the page already. Again, there's no real lighting on her hair, so it's whatever you want it to be. You could just do lots of fun lines and it would look amazing. Or you could just skip this all together and just leave it with a gradation. That's always fun. But yeah, I'm just making like variations of that pink to purple to create shading. And then where the little wave is, I try to make it a little bit darker underneath the wave of her bangs, just to show a little bit of depth. Don't we all want some thick hair like that? I know I do. And then this is a paper palette by Jane Davenport. It's like a nice paper. If it was just paper, like the paint would absorb into it and dry it quickly. But it has like a coating on it, so you can use it. Oh geez, it was clogged Why didn't I be smarter about this? Because a plop. So much paint. I put as much as I could back into the paint. Again, I left, the cap wasn't snap tight, so it was thick at the top, so I couldn't scoop that much back in. But it's okay. We do not waste paint. We will use that later. And right now I'm just wetting the page where I want to work with the gesso, just to help spread it around a little bit. I always water down gesso, or even acrylics. It just spreads easier. I like to layer it up more like watercolors. I think it's just because I'm so used to watercolors that working with them wet is a little bit easier for me. No rhyme or reason right now, just adding colors. I started with the lightest just to make sure there was some color everywhere. Coming in with pinks, I literally just like start layering up colors. I usually do pink tones where there's joints, so like shoulders, elbows, you know, a lot of like the fingertips, just wherever there's a joint in the body. I add just like a touch of pink. It's just a thing, I don't know. And I love using purple as a shadow color, and so I use the darkest skin tone that I have up there with the purple a lot for the shading parts. And yeah, just making it up as we go. Also, this is a base. I know I'm going to be coming back over with the magic wand / colored pencils, so not really concerned about getting things right. I mean, am I ever concerned about getting things right? No. Creating a nice dark shadow under her jaw just to like help her head stand out from her body and create shadow and depth. Adding a little more pink. And just mixing the colors, like creamy peaches, pink peaches, darker peaches, purpley peaches, all the peaches. I'm attempting to make a little bit of a light source just on coming from her left, so on her shoulder and her neck and whatnot, just keeping that lighter area. I don't really keep it throughout the whole picture, but it doesn't matter. Also, I'm so not used to being careful when painting and like not going out of the lines. It was a real struggle for me. Creating a little cast shadow from her bangs. And shadow under the eyes. I should have made the ears a little bit darker just to push them back a little bit, because I think in the end, like, they're a little too light, but that's okay. Really putting on that pink blush. Maybe it's cold outside, we don't know. Putting a little bit of the darker color on the edges of her face to push the sides of her face back and create a little bit of roundness, so it brings the center of her face forward just a little bit. Adding some white little highlights here and there. Well, it's not really white, it's a cream color. Trying to give a little more depth and form to the body. And usually when it comes to like breast tissue, like I always picture breasts as like teardrops. So that's kind of how I went with them. I mean, is it accurate? I don't know. Am I going to look at a reference? No. And then with the leftover paint, I'm just putting it down on some watercolor paper. And this will become a portrait later on. I'm sure if you're in the Jane Davenport group or you follow me on Facebook, at Kimball Gray on Instagram, you will have seen a lot of these where I just plop down some paint, hope for the best, and then I go over it with colored pencils and refine it as best I can and try to make it look like a nice piece of work. But it's a great use if you have a lot of leftover paint, because I hate wasting paint. So these are the musical markers, and they're beautiful, and I use them here, and I am very torn about the result, because there's a lot going on and I don't know if it was necessary. So you'll see. Basically, I'm bringing the blue from the bottom up to the top, and then I'm going to take the yellow background and do that over the pink, and then I'm going to take the pink and do that over the blue. So I'm using all the same colors, but you know, I'm trying to make it more interesting. And it does make it more interesting, but I think it starts to get a little too much. Thoughts? Also, what I could have done is I could have done a white outline first, and then these would have shown up a lot easier and a lot nicer, and I wouldn't have had to do, you know, 10 layers. Okay, really, I only did like 2 to 3 layers, but each time I do a layer, there's like the chance that it gets a little bit sloppier and a little bit messier because I'm kind of a sloppy, messy artist. But yeah, I was just drawing and then doing another layer, drawing, doing another layer. It dries very quickly. And then I started with the pink, and I was like, I'm gonna have to do a lot more layers because it's a neon pink and it's not like the most opaque. So I figured, why not do the white here, which I should have just done first for all the colors, because then the out would have stood out a little bit better. Also, I could have just done it with a white gesso. I think it would have stuck a little bit better because the white acrylic, it's acrylic ink, you know, and so it doesn't have a lot of tooth to it, if any, really, but it does make the pink stand out better. Time to do some colored pencils. So these are the Skincare Magic Wands by Jane Davenport, and they are a much creamier magic wand compared to the other ones that she has. And this is kind of just like for, I mean, it's not just for drawing faces, but that's what I use it for. And if you start layering them up a lot, they almost start looking like oils or even like oil pastels. It's very pretty, but I don't think I'd take it that far on this one. Maybe I do in a couple of places, but for the most part, they kind of just look like colored pencils. And basically I'm just using this color. I did a little bit of shading under the bangs, but I use this to do line work where all of the like carbon blue color is, because I was like not loving that was everywhere. So I use this for all of her skin, to outline her skin. And once that was done, I thought I would punch up the pink a bit in her cheeks, because I do love pink-cheeked figures. I like a nice flush to the face. And a lot of times I'll use pink to incorporate like a flush of skin color, but also use it for shading. And here I'm just using it, I'm starting with like the darkest parts of her lips and adding just that pink. Going into the absolute darkest part, which is where the lips meet, and that's where I'm doing that color. And underneath the bottom lip, I'll usually add a little bit of dark, just like that. I didn't really need to go up on the lip right there because it kind of makes it look like she has a dark lip line on, but whatever, it's too late, I already did it. And I'm just using the pink again to fill in some more of the white space, but also to blend out that darker color into the pink. And then I just do the white and I kind of smudge it all together. And then I'm just doing like the highlight above her lips. Little highlight on the nose. I think highlights are just my favorite thing, whether it's with colored pencils or like a white paint pen. I think it just really brings a piece to life. Except for I started using it up there and it was a little too light, so I got like a more of a creamy toned pencil. And then I'm taking in a lighter pink to kind of pull out the darker pink and fill up her face more with a little bit more color. It's all about the blending. And I don't know about you, but I always have pink ears. I mean, I have a pink face, so, you know. Bringing in this nice little lilac-y color to add some shadows. I think purple is such a great color with skin tones to make shadows. But be wary, because like if I shaded her face, like the bottom of her face with that, it would look more like a 5 o'clock shadow. So I got more of like a, I don't know, it's like a pinky lavender. And I'm just going very light with it because I'll be adding like a skin tone colored pencil a little bit later. Basically just shading in where I think shadows would be. And then this is a skin tone, just kind of using this to blend everything together. Kind of pulling all the colors together with this one over everything. And then this is just like a lighter version plus white, and that's like to tone down, mostly to tone down texture and kind of blend things out. little whites of her eyes, and I use blue. If you use blue to color the whites of the eyes, it makes the whites look whiter. A lot of times though, I'll use like a warm gray. It's just like a softer feeling. You could also use even creams and purples and really any color you want, but I tend to lean towards warmer colors or like purples. And I think that's the only black in the whole piece, but I did kind of light and I went over it again with a brown to make it more of like a really dark brown. Those are the swatches for the other magic wands, just because I'm not so familiar with them, but I mean, they pretty much look like the tips that are painted, so they're pretty accurate. And I just pulled out like a dark purple. I'm going to do the line work in the hair and border of the hair. Just because, you know, who wants to see the carbon lines coming through? And you could even start using colored pencils to do shading in the hair if you really wanted to, but I'm lazy. And this is just like a lighter purple to do like the mid-tones of the purples, or the lighter parts of the purples, I guess. There's a little bit of shading, look at that. Yeah, the carbon didn't want, like the ink would not absorb where the carbon lines were, which was kind of annoying, but I guess it made the colors of the colored pencils show up better, so it worked out in the end. Trying to cover up that orange a little bit, and I was like, nope, it's too strong. Taking a stronger pink to just add a little more depth to the cheeks and the lips. And obviously we have to start contouring and shaping up that nose. I think also around this time I was like, wow, I haven't done any colored pencil on the rest of her body. And that's a lot of work. I didn't love that brown, so I tried to fix it with a little bit of this like stronger peachy skin tone. But yeah, we still have a bit of work to do. We still got a ways to go. Just laying this down with a little bit of a heavier hand, getting some more of that peachy pigment in there mixed with the pinks and the purples. Always using the white to calm down the texture. And it also just helps things blend and pastelize a little bit. Darkening up the temple, because it's just, the temples are on the side of the head, so creates a little bit more depth. Kind of just adding this peach color everywhere to really help tie the colors together. And then I thought her eyebrows should match her hair, but I didn't leave enough for the pink to really show through, but there is pink in there, I promise. And yeah, I noticed that her eyes, her right eye was a little bit more shadowy, evening look, so I added a little bit of brown to make the eyes even out a little bit. Also just to darken up some of the features around. Figured I should start adding some color to the body. And then her eyes were looking a little creepy, so I was like, yep, let's get those eyes colored. It's always funny just leaving like some part of the face empty because it just looks creepy after everything else has been rendered. And I basically just plopped down a light blue color, and then I went through with a dark blue color. It was that easy. Draw a circle in the middle, a little shadow from the eyelids. She looks all dreamy now. And then I just do like a little white highlight. This is one of the few products that aren't Jane Davenport. She does have a fine tip white paint pen that's just like this one, but I was too lazy to go get it. So now I got to come in and start trying to figure out how all these colored pencils are going to fit into the body. And I'm pretty sure, like, as I'm using the colored pencils, I keep them in my hand for the most part because it's easier to, for one, know what I've used, and two, to access them. So, you know, when you're coloring, if you can manage it, try holding all the colored pencils in your hand that you're using. And again, just like the face, I'm going over with multiple colors, just layering them up, seeing what looks good. I'll stop, take a moment, look at it. Sometimes I'll back away from the picture to see if I need to like add more purples somewhere, or more like bright peaches or pinks or whatever. Right here I'm bringing in like a really dark brown just to accentuate some of the lines here and there, like some of the darkest parts of the image, like the body that's turned away into shadow, underneath the breasts, the armpits, the clavicles, and like underneath her jawline obviously is probably one of the darker areas. I think this entire piece took me about 2 hours from start to finish, and that is twice as long as I normally do, and I think it paid off. So I might, you know, start planning out pieces before I start painting them. Who'd have thought? Just darkening up that, it was that carbon line, so I'm going over with like a nice aqua to match that line around, and then, you know how I love to add energy with just strands of flowing hair. So that's how that happened. And this, I was like, do I do it? Yeah. Originally I was gonna make her neck that golden, I was gonna use the golden pen for this, but it was a little too dark, and I thought adding another element, like another color and sparkle, because it is pretty, and it has like a nice golden color to it, like a tan color. But I feel like doing it with the white kind of lets your eyes rest a little bit. They're not too distracted by more colors. And then here I'm using a Storytime paint pen by Jane Davenport to lay down the beads. And originally I was gonna just do that and then circle it around with this pen, but I just ended up filling it all in. But it was easier to color over the Storytime paint pen because it was an acrylic and nothing absorbed into where the colored pencils were and whatnot. And then here I thought I would separate the colors with a white line, but also it just cleans up the edges a little bit. And it just adds a little bit of interest. And then here, well, not here. Here I'm just giving her little highlights on the cheeks. But I'm having a good think, procrastinating, because I want to add some more excitement to these background drippy drips. But I was like, if I do it, if it doesn't look good, it's gonna be scary, but I could paint over it. But yeah, I like the way they look. I like the way it looks, so I was happy, we went with it. And then I was like, oh God, what if I just overdo it? Oh, and then the pen caught, so it created a little splatter, but that's fine. It was fun and scary doing this. And then I decided, while I have it, I'm just gonna go over the dark colors bordering her, because I did like that the white was making the other colors pop more, but also letting my eyes rest, giving them a little bit of a break. Also, the white just breaks up the colors, which is nice. But I did like the blue around the hair, so right here, I don't cover the blue up. I just take the white line up a little ways, and then I fade it away. And then I just finished outlining the rest of her body. And a little bit of the colors do come through, like on the left and rights and whatnot. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really like the way she turned out. I hope you did too. Please like and subscribe, and yeah, we'll be doing another video coming up next week. I hope you all are having a wonderful December. Take care. Much love. Bye, you guys.